Hello fellow art makers. Today we're going to be working on a really fun little project that is a great way to recycle all those old newspapers and pieces of wrapping paper or catalogs and magazines that you have around the house. We're going to be making some baskets made out of paper. They're real simple to do. You can make them any shape that you want, and like I say, it's a great way to recycle a lot of materials. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the supplies that you'll need. Now, we do have a take and make kit for this particular project. It will include a set of instructions, a couple of cardboard circles, a dowel, and some strips of newspaper. Now, these are for practice because it takes a little bit of practice to learn how to roll the paper into the straws that you're going to need. So you'll need more than this. So in addition to the supplies that you'll get in the kit, you will need to supply more paper, and newspaper is fine, but if you have wrapping paper or magazines or catalogs or something like that, that will work as well. The difference will be the length of the straws that you make. You'll also need some glue, and I would recommend that you use a glue stick and the liquid glue if you have it. If not, then the glue stick will be fine. A pair of scissors will be handy. Also, if you have something that's sort of long and pointy, I'm using the tip of a paintbrush is perfect, but a screwdriver or a toothpick, something like that, that will work as well. That will just make it a little bit easier for you to finish up the project. The other item you're going to need is some kind of a straight edge, and I'm using a ruler with a metal edge on it, and that works really well. That's for tearing the paper into strips. You can also cut it with scissors if you prefer, but tearing it is a little bit easier. So let's go ahead. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is to create some paper strips. The easiest way to do that is to tear them. You can also use scissors if you prefer, but tearing is a lot faster and you're going to need quite a few of these, so this is a little bit easier way to do it. What you want to do is you want to take a ruler, and mine has a metal edge on it which makes it work a little bit better. And then you put it about 4 inches from the edge of the paper, and you want to make sure that you're doing it with the grain of the paper, which is on newspapers is usually up and down. And all you have to do is just pull against the edge of the ruler and you'll get a nice straight strip. And you can get usually 2 sets of strips out of a single section of paper, like so. So you want to tear as many of those as you think you'll need. And like I say, you can also use wrapping paper if you prefer, or magazines, and it's done pretty much the same way. You just measure out the width of the paper that you need, tear it against the edge of the ruler. Now this is longer than my ruler, so I need to move my ruler down a little bit, and just keep tearing until you get a strip. Okay, so you're going to need to make a bunch of those. Okay, the next thing that you need to do is to make these into what I like to call straws, which are just long tubes of paper that have been rolled up to a more or less consistent thickness. The way you do that is you take the dowel that's included with your kit, and you're going to put it at a, not too sharp an angle, but an angle about like that. And then you're going to put just a little bit of glue right there. You're going to roll the paper over and sort of tuck it underneath the dowel and start rolling. That glue will hold the paper in place while you're working. Now, as you roll, you'll see that the dowel sort of disappears into the paper. What you want to do is keep pulling that up as you roll it up, so you never lose your dowel. Just keep rolling and pulling, rolling and pulling, and eventually you'll get like just this little triangle at the end here. You want to put just a little bit of glue at the end, finish rolling it up, and then you're going to pull your dowel out, and that's how you make your straws. So I'm going to show you how to do that again. Take a strip of paper, put your dowel at a slight angle on the corner there, like so. Then you're going to put just a little bit of glue down You're going to roll the corner of the paper over the dowel and tuck it underneath and start rolling. As you roll up, you're going to pull the dowel out. And eventually you'll get just a little triangle of paper at the end. You'll take your glue stick, put just a little bit of glue, finish rolling, and then remove the dowel. And now you've got 2 sticks, 2 straws. Okay, so you make a bunch of those. I would say start out with at least 20 or 25 because you're going to need quite a few of them to finish your project. Okay, the next thing you're going to need are your cardboard circles. You're going to take 1 circle and then you're going to take some of your straws. Now these are a little bit longer than you need, so what you're going to do is either cut or tear them. It's probably easier to cut them. But you have to be careful because one end will start unrolling. So keep your glue stick handy. Just put a little bit of glue on the end there and glue it so that it stays in place. You're going to make a bunch of those in the shorter size, and then you're going to glue them around the circle. So you're going to take your, and this is where the liquid glue works a little bit better. We can get it to work. Come on. Okay, so you're just going to put a ring of glue around there. Maybe some on the inside as well. And then you're going to place your straws towards the center. Now you don't want to cross over in the center because that will make it too thick. And the other thing that you need to be aware of is that you want to use an odd number of straws. If you use an even number, you're not going to be able to weave properly. You'll have to do a lot of stopping and starting. So you're just going to put these straws in a circle around the disc. Try and space them as evenly as possible. On mine, I used about 15, so you're going to have to sort of adjust them a little bit so that they all fit. And then once you get all of your straws in place, you're going to take the second disc, put glue on this, and then put them together. And then you want to put them under some weight so it holds them flat and together while they're drying. And then you let it dry. And then we'll go to the next step. Okay, once you have gotten your straws glued to the discs and it's dried, you're going to want to go around and sort of trim them so they're a little bit more even as far as the length, because you might find that they're not quite all the same length. You don't have to measure, you just want to sort of eyeball this. We're going to be doing some further trimming as we get to the end of the project, but right now it just makes it a little bit easier if they're all about the same length. The next thing that you're going to want to do is to bend these upwards towards the center. And that is basically just making them a little bit more flexible so when you actually do start weaving, it works a little bit better for you. Okay, now we're actually going to add some weaving straws. Now what you want to do is you want to take your long straw and you want to sort of crush the end a little bit, and you'll see that there is some space between the 2 layers of cardboard. If you can tuck the end of the long straw in between those, that will hold it in place. But if you can't do that because it's glued too tightly, you can also just take it and wrap it around one of the uprights. In this case, I've got plenty of space, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue in between a couple of the straws that are going to be used for uprights. And then I'm going to take the end of this, I'm going to crush it so it's a little bit flat, and I'm going to just poke it in there and hold it in place. And let the glue set on that just a little bit. Then what you're going to do is you're sort of, it helps if you take your straw and sort of pinch it between your fingers and get it sort of flattened like that. That will help you when you're weaving. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go behind the upright that you just glued this next to. And then you're going to go in front of the next one, behind the next one, in front of the next one, behind, in front, and so on all the way around. Now, the first couple of rows are a little bit awkward, so you know, take a little bit of time and patience, and you'll be fine. Now, if you've counted the correct number of straws, when you get to the one where you started, you should be doing the opposite of what you started out with. In other words, if you went in front of the straw, you should be able just to go behind it and then just continue going around and spiraling up the straws. Now, one of the other things that I found helpful to have are some clothespins. And these will sort of help hold things in place while you're working. On the first row, you're not going to have too much of a problem. When you get to the second row, you might find that if you put a clothespin and just hold those 2 rows down, it helps sort of keep things in place until you can get everything where you need it to be. Now, I have used up the length of my first straw here, so I need to add another one. And that's a pretty simple thing to do as well. You just take the next straw. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this one a little bit. You want to pinch the end of it and then put a little bit of glue on it. And I like to put the glue right sort of in that crease that I've made. And I fold it, and you just slide it inside the tube that's part of the other straw. And sometimes you have to sort of finagle it in there. That went in pretty well. And then I pinch it so that that glue sort of squeezes out and it sticks to the other straw. Hold that for a little bit, and then you just continue weaving. And this is a good place to put another clothespin or a binder clip or paper clip or something to hold it in place, because it's kind of a weak joint right now, because for one thing the paper is wet, and also it can slide out really easily. So I'm going to go ahead and right where that joint is, I'm going to put a clothespin. And then I'm going to continue weaving. Doing the opposite of what I did on the first row. Okay, and I'm back where my first clothespin was. I'm going to put that back where it was. Now, the other thing you want to do as you're weaving is you want to push down your strips that you're weaving with. And you can pull a little bit on the upright pieces, and that will help lock everything in place as well. Again, you can put more clothespins or clips in here to hold things in place as you work. So all you want to do is you just want to keep going around, adding more straws until you get the basket to the height that you want it to be. You want to make sure that you have at least a couple of inches left at the top, though, because you're going to need to use that to fold over and finish the edge. Okay, now that I've got the basket to the height that I want it to be, and I still have a couple inches of the uprights left, there are a couple different things that you can do to finish your basket. One of the things that I've also done is I've pushed all of the edges down and pulled these up so that they're parallel and even, and it just looks nice. It looks a little bit more organized than it would as you're weaving. So you want to do all of that. At the end, the last strip here, this is the tip of it, you can take that to sort of the inside of the basket and put just a little bit of glue there to hold it in place. And I like to put it actually behind the upright. This one here, this is it would normally have gone behind it. I'm just going to tuck it to where the other one sort of ended so that that's all glued together. And the other thing you want to check is to make sure that as much as possible the top of your basket is level. Now it may not be perfectly level because you're actually doing a spiral, and so one edge is going to be a little bit higher than the other. But if you push one edge down and maybe pull the other ones up a little bit, you get it so that it's pretty straight looking. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to finish these edges. So I'm going to take one of the uprights, and you're going to bend it over right at the edge there. Now this one was in the back, this was on the inside of the basket, and I'm bending it over towards the front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave it back down sort of in the same pattern that it came up in. So if it went behind the piece, then it's going to come to the front. And it takes a little bit of finagling, and this is where it might be handy to use a screwdriver or a paintbrush tip or something like that, so you can sort of open that up a little bit, and it makes it just easier to slide that down in there. And you don't need to go all the way down, just a couple of rows is fine. And then once you get that through there, you can trim that off. There we go. Okay. So that does two things. It gives you a finished edge and it holds that top row down. So I don't know if you can see how that's done. It went over the top, so you're going over like two of them, but then you're going under, over, under, and then you're just going to take your scissors, pull that a little bit, slip it off, and then it'll pull back underneath there so it gives you a nice finished edge. Now the other ones, the ones that are on the outside, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to fold them to the inside and do the same thing. You're going to weave this piece over the top and down through where it was before. And again, if you use your whatever tool you want to use, sort of open that up a little bit so you can slide that in a little bit easier. I don't know if you can see that. There's the end of it, and then you just take your scissors and trim off the extra. You don't need to glue it, it's going to stay in place. So then you want to go ahead and do that all the way around. Okay, now that's going to give you a good finished edge, and it's not going to come apart or anything. But if you don't like the way that it looks, there are a couple different things you can do. You can take another strip of paper, and I'm just going to use newsprint to show you how to do this. Strip of newsprint, you're going to fold it in half lengthwise, then you're going to fold it to the center, and if you want to, you can fold it again depending on how wide you want the edging to be. And then fold it over so it's like that, and then you can take it and just go over that edge and cover that edge with a strip of newspaper instead, and you can glue that down. So if you like that look a little bit better, or if you want a specific color on the top or something, you can do that. But it really isn't, it's pretty sturdy. This isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to come undone or anything. So there's your finished basket. As you can see, if you use the colored paper, you can get all sorts of different patterns, but the newsprint is nice because it's a good sturdy paper, and it's flexible, so it works really well. Sometimes the wrapping paper can be a little bit brittle, so you have to use a little bit more care with that. If you want to, you can spray this with a clear acrylic so that it protects it a little bit more, or you can spray it with an acrylic paint if you want a different color, if you just want a solid color. So that's our basket project. It's real easy to do, and I hope you have a lot of fun with it. See you next time with Artmakers.